Welcome to Football Conspiracies.
I'm Jared Cole.
And I'm Jared Rabinovich.
This week's episode, The Curse of the Terrible Towel.
Alright, so I think we should start by addressing the thing that our audience has probably already noticed, and that's that we're still two stupid idiots who don't know how to work a computer.
Yes, but at least we're not jumping and cutting, and we can actually put a semblance sentence together.
Exactly. So we're sorry. Yeah, we're sorry that this doesn't sound as good as our normal episode, but I promise we will be back to full form as soon as we figure this out. And if I might put this out there, I don't want to name any names, but if anyone's familiar with a audio company that might have a name that is a fictional creature that lives in the Arctic area, fuck that company.
What? Oh, it's a Yeti microphone.
I never said that name.
They don't know that.
Well, I never said that.
Well, okay, well, I said it.
If you're coming after anyone, Yeti, you know who your man is.
And my name is Jared Cole.
I really thought you were going to say my name.
Damn, I should have.
All right, so now that we've gotten through that, our housekeeping, you got any banter for us this week?
Yeah, it's an old video of Josh Allen, but it's weird and crazy nonetheless. So
I'm always down for some Josh Allen content.
3 things you have to do on game day.
Throw up, listen to my playlist, and drink water.
Wait a second. Can we back up for a second? You throw up every game day?
Every game day.
When?
Right after pregame, come in the locker room, go do my deal, listen to my music, drink some water, and some mouthwash.
Wow. Good to know. 3 things.
I'm sorry, what? Josh Allen pukes before every single game.
And drink some water and take some mouthwash, and then he's out there.
I mean, I guess if you're winning MVP, I can't be talking shit about your pregame ritual, but that is unhinged.
Do you think he listens to his playlist while he's throwing up? Or do you think he throws up, then listens to his playlist, and then drinks his water?
No, I think you gotta be doing it at the same time, headbanging and puking at the same time. I think it's pretty fucking metal. I'm just gonna say it.
So, yeah, Josh Allen, MVP, throws up before every game.
Man, his teeth are probably disgusting. All that bile. I guess it's only once a week, but damn.
Yeah, he does it, 19 times a season?
19. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, definitely not 20. All right. We ready to get into the meat and potatoes here?
Yes, let's hear about the curse of the terrible towel.
Yes, so we are coming back at you guys with another curse episode, because with the NFL, it seems there's an unending supply of them, truly. Every time I think that we have hit the end of this curse road, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. I can't imagine us ever running out at this point, and I'm cursing myself by saying that, but as of right now, I'm damn, this sport is literally littered with curses. And while I was writing the intro for this episode, I did kind of go down a bit of a rant myself, so bear with me while I talk about my opinions on the psychology behind the prevalence of curses in the NFL. So, while I don't think this might be a particularly interesting topic to anyone who doesn't listen to this podcast, I think it's pretty cool and relevant for our purposes. So, bear with me while I get into this. So, I just want to preface that this is a topic, psychology specifically, that I literally have no qualifications to speak upon. This is all conjecture, and I hope that you guys can take this with a grain of salt. So, I do have an inkling that there is something about the American psyche that makes curses more prevalent in this all-American sport than any other sport that we see. Of course, some might say there's curses in every sport, and to that I say, not like there is in football, not even close.
Yeah, I was gonna say, baseball has some, pretty famous curses, but, in football, your stadiums are getting cursed, your owners are getting cursed, like
Bro, the terrible
nobody-
towel is getting
a
cursed.
towel is getting cursed, like nobody is safe in the NFL.
Exactly. And I will get a little bit into baseball later, but it's funny that you bring that sport up too, as the sport that has a lot of curses, the only other All-American sport.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I think that this phenomenon likely has to do a lot with the peculiarities of the American psyche. Like, at the NFL football, it seems to attract crazies in a way that no other sport ever does. And for that, I'm eternally grateful, because we would not have this podcast otherwise. But on a more serious note, I am deeply interested in this topic and would love if someone smarter than myself, someone who had, an inkling of qualifications, took on the research of this question. And of course, you can come speak to us and email us at fbconspiracies@gmail.com. And even with my lack of qualifications, of course I can theorize, and I do, but I want to be better than the whacked out theorists who come up with the slop that we cover. What I can bring to the table in regard to this topic, much like the people we speak about, is nothing more than complete conjecture. I will endeavor to find someone who can speak to this with, literally any level of qualifications to back them up, but for now, I think the observation of the prevalence of curses in the NFL is interesting in and of itself. My idea that the American psyche and this all-American sport in combination has created a breeding ground for conspiracy and curses can also be refuted by something that J. Cole just brought up and we touched upon briefly, and that is the other all-American sport being baseball. Of course, baseball has its fair share of conspiracies, but it has not been hit by this bug in all the same way as the football world. It would be a logical argument to say that this all-American sport should also be infested with conspiracies for the exact same reason I cited football is. However, I think baseball doesn't need the same level of conspiracy because it has its own brand of Americanism all on its own, and that brand is exemplified by the form of pure and blatant corruption. That is what makes baseball the all-American sport that it is. One of them you get conspiracy, the other you get corruption, and that is, I think, the best way to describe why these sports are so not just all-American, but so popular and why we love to talk about them so much.
And they wouldn't be all-American if they didn't feature both.
Exactly, right? I mean, conspiracy and corruption, that is Pax
Hand in hand.
Americana.
Hand in hand.
Exactly, exactly. All right, now that I'm done with my exploration into the American psyche and its knock-on effects on its cultural sports, let's get on to this curse. Today, we are going to be speaking about the curse of the terrible towel. First things first, J. Cole. Do you even know what the terrible towel is?
I know that it was a towel that a fan threw off the top level of a stadium once. But that's all I really know about it.
So you have the smallest snippet of what this is. So let's roll back because that's just confusing and adding nothing to the story. So what the terrible towel is in very simple terms is it's a rally towel for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? It is a small yellow and black towel, or I guess gold and black towel that has the words terrible towel on it.
Okay.
And you know how a lot of sporting teams, it's a pretty common tradition among football teams. The University of South Carolina does the same thing. They have little towels that you kind of wave around in the air. It's a little tradition. You give it to everybody.
Every sport does this during the playoffs.
You understand. Exactly. It's not a very big deal. And yeah, it's pretty common, but the terrible towel has a pretty interesting history of its own. First of all, it is actually credited as being the first ever rally towel. This is the first time that people had this tradition, which I find pretty interesting.
This is going back pretty far then.
Yes. I mean, not too far, but it's pretty old.
I have old rally towels.
Definitely before we were alive. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally thought up in 1975 when WTAE, which was the Steelers, or is the Steelers' flagship radio station, wanted to create a gimmick that would attract the attention of sponsors to the station. To do this, the station's executive leaders brought in Myron Cope, who who was the Steelers radio broadcaster on the station, and known colloquially as the voice of the Steelers. Like, he was a big deal in this area for the Steelers fan base. When initially approached, Myron Cope responded by saying this:
I am not a gimmick guy. Never have been a gimmick guy.
In response to this, the president of sales at the station told Cope that the suggestion of a successful gimmick would greatly increase his chances of securing a raise. Upon hearing this, Myron Cope responded with,
I'm a gimmick guy.
What a fucking legend.
He's a sellout.
I like this guy. Myron Cope, he's my type of guy.
What, a sellout?
An opportunist.
He's a sellout.
You choose your words, I'll choose mine.
He literally just changed his whole motivations for money. That is the definition of a sellout.
Hear me out. You're in a team meeting at work, and your team welding meeting, and your boss is like, if you weld this specific thing, I'll give you a raise. Don't you think that you're taking it?
Well, yeah, but...
Even if you don't like welding that specific thing?
No, that's totally different.
Why is it different?
It is. You know it is.
All right, sounds like you're the sellout here. So, the first idea that they threw around when they told Myron Cope that he has to come up with a gimmick was actually a black mask that said whatever it takes on it. This was deemed too expensive. I think that's a crazy, silly reason, but, like, I don't know if they're talking, like, half mask. Like, COVID happened, so we all imagine half mask. But this was happening in 1975, so I imagine that they were thinking, like, full-on Goldie mask sort of thing.
But I don't even think... You think so?
That was my imagination of it. These never came to fruition, so we'll never know.
Yeah, I guess.
Unless we can pull up someone who's in this meeting, but I have a feeling that they're either quite old or maybe not around anymore.
I'm trying to think. Maybe it's like one of those old, like, witch doctor masks.
Oh, that'd be lit. Imagine all the Steelers fans were wearing that.
Imagine that became the big thing instead of rally towels in every single playoff game. You just see everyone
wearing one of those. Oh my god. Man. Wow. An alternate reality that they should have gone down. But no, it was too expensive.
Imagine ruining sports forever because it was too expensive.
I mean, they came with a pretty good idea on its own. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but it's no
witch doctor, whatever it takes mask. You're right. And it would be gold and black like that. Come on,
that'd be crazy.
That'd be pretty cool. Regardless of all this, eventually they came to the idea of the signature terrible towel we know today in its classic gold color. This being said, the head of WTAE withheld his final approval until they agreed to also produce the towels in black, as they wanted to avoid accusations of racism from the FCC. This point was quickly agreed upon. Totally irrelevant to our story, but that needed to be added.
And that's crazy, because a golden towel is racist by itself?
That's what I thought. I was like, they're thinking so much harder about this than they need to be. I actually think the idea that a gold towel in itself is racist, like the idea is racist, you know?
Yeah, this is 1975 wokeism for you.
Yeah, literally. Oh my god. Whoa, shit.
Yeah, and they say society today has a problem.
Yeah, exactly. These guys are soft as fuck. Yeah, come on. Damn. Well, now that we've uncovered the wokeism of the 1975, let's get on to the initial response to these towels by the teammates of the Steelers. And that reaction was that they were not too enthusiastic. The following quote from the Wikipedia page for Terrible Towel, I'm sorry for not using better sources, but they had some good information on the story, it delves into this reaction.
See, I'm a firm believer that Wikipedia is a valid source because they source their information. Like, they literally have telling you exactly where they got that information from. Like, you could fact check Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is usually right. Like, obviously there are the jokes where it's like, oh, Brad Marchand is the owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it's like, yeah, you're unlucky when you come across that and you don't know what's going on. Maybe you believe it. But for information like this, I believe Wikipedia is a decent enough source.
As someone who has a degree in history, I will actually somewhat agree with you. I think Wikipedia is largely a great source, but it's not a great source for finding information. It's a great source for finding sources.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that's
But
what I mean.
I will say that I did do a preliminary check on these sources, but this information might be like a little not super accurate. Not because I'm not a diligent researcher, but because Wikipedia is sometimes a liar.
So basically what you're saying is what I just said, you're about to completely disprove me?
No. We're not getting into that. No, this is fact. Listen to it with your whole heart.
Awesome.
No, but for real, I genuinely do think this is some good research. And J. Cole, will you please read them what Wikipedia has to say about the team's reaction to the terrible towel?
Of course. In the weeks leading up to the game, Cope advertised the idea of the towel to fans on the radio and evening television news, using the phrase, "The terrible towel is poised to strike." However, Atkins grew nervous that fans would think the towel was a jinx if the Steelers lost the game. Classic, right?
Classic.
There. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, exactly. Like, they know.
They've only announced it, and right away they're like, oh,
Bro, the conspiracy...
there's a curse here.
The conspiracy in the American psyche runs this deep. Back in 1975, these woke motherfuckers still thought of that.
That's crazy. Cope agreed to poll players on their view of the towel. Linebacker Jack Ham told Cope, "I think your idea stinks." Ernie Fats Holmes, great nickname, was also against the idea. Also against the idea of the terrible towel was Andy Russell, who mirrored Cope's original thoughts. "We're not a gimmick team. We've never been a gimmick team." Cope simply smiled. "Russell, you're sick." That's a wild thing to say.
Yeah, I know. This is it's kind of a crazy story they pulled up here. There's
Yeah.
a reason I'm quoting it fully.
Growing nervous about the negative feedback, Cope, who had already advertised the towel on the news multiple times, polled the rest of the players with a Banana Republic vote. I found Terry Bradshaw seated on a stool at his locker, reading the farm reports. "How do you feel about the terrible towel?" I asked him. He looked up and said, "Huh?" I checked him off as a yes. I reported back to Ted Atkins that the Steelers overwhelmingly approved of the towel.
Are you understanding why Myron Cope is my type of motherfucker?
Yeah, okay, that's crazy.
Like, also the use of the term, which by the way was his term, Myron Cope's term, Banana Republic vote, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a prime story. This is exactly what I like to find when I'm researching historical instances. Like, this sort of interaction.
That's crazy.
Hilarious.
I still maintain that he's a sellout over an opportunist.
Well, I'm going to say that he's an absolute legend in the voice of the Steelers in the 1970s, so that's what I'm going with, okay?
Okay, fine. That's fine.
And also the inventor of the terrible towel.
And
So
yes,
that's pretty
that
cool.
is true.
That's
That
pretty
is
cool.
true.
So regardless of all this skepticism coming from the team, which I mean, obviously was pretty overwhelming,
Yeah.
not according to the vote though. At the first game the Terrible Towels were debuted, they were actually an absolute hit. And the rest of the story is history. I mean, like, they are an iconic piece of Steelers memorabilia, something that you see at every Steelers game and definitely at their playoff games. And, you know, a huge influence on the rest of the sports world as a whole. Since they have become this icon of the Steelers fan base, they have inspired so many other teams to follow suit. But more importantly, I want to speak about some of the crazy places the Terrible Towel has appeared. Fans have taken this towel to the Great Wall of China, the South Pole, Vatican City, to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. But way better than this, someone brought it to the International Space Station.
Wow.
This towel has been to fucking space.
You'd think if they were an astronaut, they'd be smart enough not to cheer for the Steelers, eh?
No, but here's your little photo of the Terrible Towel on the ISS.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
2 Steelers fans up there. Crazy. But this
Well,
is
I don't know if they're both Steelers fans.
That's
You can't. There's no proof they're both Steelers.
That's
fans.
totally fair. No, you're right. And this has also become just like a pop culture icon. It's showed up in the show Scrubs. Hillary Clinton was handed one during her 2008 presidential election campaign. Wiz Khalifa is like waving it around in the music video for Black and Yellow. Like, this thing is literally everywhere. The craziest part about this entire legacy, though, is how it defined the legacy of Myron Cope, who, without this terrible towel, would have been remembered as one of the most famous broadcasters, sports broadcasters of all time. He actually had the longest tenure of a broadcaster with a single team in NFL history. Like, This guy's a legend in the broadcasting community. But he said, very famously, a quote about when he kicks the bucket, which goes like this.
When I kick the bucket, there'll be a little story that'll say, creator of towel dead.
And that actually came to fruition, because when he died, the Associated Press ran a headline which said, former Steelers broadcaster, terrible towel creator, Cope dies.
Yeah.
He was absolutely right. This guy was a little bit of a visionary.
Maybe they titled their article that because he gave that quote.
It's totally possible, but I have a feeling that the person who wrote this article likely found the two and thought, oh, this is pretty prescient, an interesting detail to add. Either way, since the inception of this gimmick, this has been the creation of an icon, something that has spread throughout the entire sports world, and honestly, just the history of it. We haven't even gone into the curse.
I was about to say, we so far have had a 20-minute podcast about the history of the rally.
No, you have to understand, I meant to just talk about this curse, but I started writing about this. I was smiling the entire time. I was like,
it's good history.
This is so cute. This is exactly the sort of thing that I find interesting, and I think the audience of our podcast also finds interesting. This is, I hope the reason that you guys come to us. But for the real reason you guys come to us, let's get on to the curse of the terrible towel. Since the introduction of this towel, many opposing teams have gone on to mistreat the towel in a variety of ways. And the curse goes that once you mistreat the towel, you're going to be punished. So it's a pretty classic example of a curse that we see. But let's get into some of the instances of this coming true, and we'll see by the end of this if, J. Cole, you think that this is truly a curse or not.
I like where it's heading. I like the premise so far.
Very classic stuff, I would say, right? If you step on our logo, it's going to give you bad luck sort of thing. But it's if you mess with our towel, you have it
mess
coming.
With your playoffs.
Exactly. So here is a non-exhaustive list of the terrible towel curses, because let me tell you, there's a shit ton, and while I did pull out a lot of these examples, I'm only bringing you guys the ones that I thought were the most entertaining.
Of course.
This first one, actually, I'm bringing to you guys because it was the first instance of the curse that has ever reported, and this was in the 1994 playoffs, Steelers versus Browns. During player intros, Steelers lineman Brentson Buckner dropped his terrible towel by accident. Browns running back Ernest Biner stomped on it and shouted, "We don't care about your towel. We're gonna beat you this time." Tensions flared, players had to be separated. Final score, Steelers 29, Browns 9.
That's brutal.
Yeah, Biner got his answer. The towel did not forget.
No, it did not.
October 2008. There was many instances between 1994 and 2008, but we're getting to the juicy stuff now. Just wanted to give you guys the first example. October 2008. Steelers are in Jacksonville, locked in a close game. Out of nowhere, Jaguars mascot Jackson DeVille, which is a hilarious name, takes a terrible towel, shoves it under his armpits, then rubs it on his rear in a crude mimicry of wiping his ass. Next play, momentum flips. Steelers take control, win the game 26-21.
Nice.
The next play.
That's great.
This is shaping up for some good evidence.
This is great evidence. So I'm a believer.
We're barely scratched the surface here.
Yeah,
we haven't even left 2008.
That's how I know this is true.
This next example comes from that same season, December 2008. After beating the Steelers, the Titans players Lendale White and Keith Bullock stomped and danced on the terrible towel. This was after the game had ended. The towel has to strike back somehow. The Steelers players said nothing, but the towel listened. Tennessee, the top playoff seed, lost their next game. Then 7 more. after their worst ever 59-0 blowout loss, they mailed an autographed towel to Pittsburgh as an apology. That is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, that's got to be in like the Steelers Hall of Fame or something.
No,
That's like one of the most legendary things a team has ever received from another team.
Oh, it has to be. You're so right.
Like it has to be in a museum somewhere.
For sure. Like it's got to be.
Yeah.
Like that's got to be viewable for the public. That's a public good as far as I'm concerned. But what's crazy about this is this example is so legendary that when I found this Curse of the Terrible Towel, I didn't find an article about the Curse of the Terrible Towel. I was actually reading an article about this horrible season the Titans had, where they were the first seed and consequently lost their last 8 games right in a row.
That's why they did it.
That's the thing. I was reading this article and I was like, what could have possibly caused this? And there was an offhand mention of the Terrible Towel, and you guys have followed me down the rest of the rabbit hole.
Yep, here we go.
On to the next example. Just before Super Bowl, I don't know what XLIII is.
You don't know what XLII is?
48.
I was gonna say it's 10 before 50
Fine.
plus 3.
If I really think about it, just before Super Bowl 48.
43.
Are we keeping this in? Me being an idiot?
Yeah, because it's us trying to figure out Roman numerals. 10 before 50 plus 3.
All right. Just before Super Bowl 43, Phoenix Mayor Phil Gordon took stage at a Cardinals rally. He pulled out a terrible towel while on stage and blew his nose into it. Then the Cardinals lost the Super Bowl to the Steelers 27-23 in the final minutes.
Yeah, you gotta know better than that.
That was actually just like silly bullshit. I have no idea why they ever would have done that. Like, Phil Gordon, I hope you got voted out in the next election because of this. Have no idea what your record was otherwise, but this is enough to lose my vote personally.
Yeah, if you lost my team a championship, I'm not voting for you again.
Hell no. I'll choose the next guy in line.
Yeah, exactly.
He probably didn't run again. He's probably shamed out of the city. Goddamn. 2009. Steelers visiting Detroit. Lions mascot Rory. Oh, terrible name. Cringe. Rory steals a terrible towel. He then stomps, bites, and tears it apart in front of the crowd. Immediately after, Detroit's offense takes 3 straight sacks. 4th and 28 fails. Steelers win 28-20. Rory's reign of terror, it ended in defeat.
Yes, it did. This is crazy.
I know, right? And we're not at the end yet. Still a handful more examples. 2009 playoffs. The Colts try to get clever. They create blue and white, quote-unquote, terrific towels to fire up their fans. They made it to the Super Bowl, but those imitation towels, they didn't carry the magic. Saints beat them 31-17. The real towel stays undefeated. Come on, guys. That was asking for it. You guys,
cheap imitations.
Not just that. Well, I mean, really cheap. That's why there wasn't the masks.
Yeah.
But for real, like, you guys spent money to walk yourselves into a curse. Like, it's one thing if it's like the heat of the moment, you stomp on the towel,
you blow your nose into it. No, they
it's crazy.
Put time and effort into cursing themselves.
Yeah, like, it's crazy that the Colts PR team lost them the 2009 Super Bowl, which, funnily enough, is the first Super Bowl I remember watching. Our next example happened just after a 2012 win in Pittsburgh. Ray Rice strutted off waving a terrible towel over his head while singing Renegade, which is the Steelers' iconic hype song. 2 weeks later, the Steelers, with their third-string quarterback Charlie Batch, returned the favor and beat the Ravens in Baltimore. Yes, Baltimore did go on to win the Super Bowl that year, but Ray Rice never played another NFL game after a domestic violence scandal in 2014. Was this the towel getting back at him?
I was just about to say, Rice.
It was not the towel. It was Ray Rice being a really bad dude. Let's be real here.
Yeah, but I mean, the two things don't have to be unrelated.
I think in this case, I'm going to call them unrelated. He's a good football player. Horrible guy. But you know what? I don't think the towel helped.
No.
And also, like, you're just showing how much of an asshole you are. Obviously, he did way worse things than this, but, like, you're singing their hype song and waving a towel over your head. Bro, it was a regular season game. Calm down. October 2014. Jaguars mascot, once again, Jackson DeVille, he's back. This time holding a sign that reads, quote unquote, "Towels carry Ebola." This was during the game against Pittsburgh. It was obviously quite tasteless, and the Jaguars lost the game 17-9. They issued a public apology the next day. The towel, it keeps the receipts.
Of course it does.
So, isn't that crazy though? Like, do you remember that era
I remember
of
the
time
Ebola.
when everyone was just making fun about this disease that was like rampaging through West Africa and killing like hundreds of people in like these horrific ways? Like, Ebola is not just a deadly disease, like a truly horrifying disease.
Yeah.
And it was just like cachet to like make fun of it during like a solid few year period in Western society.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, we should reckon with that shit, because, like, we got, like, a cold that spread as a pandemic, and we were all like, we need to lock everything down, which I'm not saying I disagree with, but if that was our reaction for, like, a cold hitting us, imagine Ebola hit the Western states.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Come on, guys. Get your shit together. In our next example, it actually seems like we're gonna transcend sports for a second and move to the NHL. In February 2016, Panthers mascot Stanley C. Panther, he mocked the Steelers by blowing his nose into a terrible towel during a hockey game versus the Penguins. With 6 minutes left, the Pens were down 0-2. Then, they tied it. Won in overtime, then won the Stanley Cup.
That's crazy.
Don't fuck with the terrible towel. And our last example that we're going to be going over today happened right before Monday Night Football in 2016. Washington punter Tress Way shares a hype video his mom made where she burns a terrible towel.
Oh my god.
The Steelers responded by torching the team 38-16.
Done. You've convinced me. I don't need to hear anything else because I know for a fact
Well,
that this curse is real.
that's good because I don't have anything else to share. But I knew you'd like this one. I was going through this and I was like, damn, there's like a lot of evidence.
There is a lot of evidence that you don't disrespect the towel.
And I'm telling you, these
you
are just
pay the
entertaining
price.
ones. Like, I could have gone on for another 20 minutes with more examples. Like, this is a well-documented curse.
That's crazy.
And my favorite aspect about the curse, actually, is the fact that it is really difficult for killjoys like me to definitively disprove. Like, we're at that part of the episode where I should be trying to disprove this.
You can. There's
Right?
literally nothing for you to disprove.
Well, it is my job, so I'm going to do my best to do that.
Okay, let's hear what your excuses are.
So, I think it's beyond clear that this entire curse is a massive case of confirmation bias.
You don't say.
I know, we're going to be getting into fucking philosophy again and biases, but you guys are going to bear with me because you love me. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for information that already comports with predetermined beliefs. It is common in the political realm. For example, when someone who is right-winged, or vice versa, only looks to right-wing news sources and assumes that all their positions are unequivocally correct. However, this is only the case because they never look to something that would challenge their previously held views, only sources that tend to reinforce them. In the case of the terrible towel curse, we only have examples of times when someone has disrespected the towel and then proceeded to lose. We don't have any examples, that I could find at least, where someone disrespected the towel and then won. Of course, it is theoretically possible that there has never been a case when someone won after disrespecting the towel, but that claim is, at the least, highly dubious. Because there has been so much fanfare around this curse, people will find it far more noticeable when a player, say, takes a dump on the sidelines, uses a terrible towel to wipe their ass, and then proceeds to lose. Whereas in the same situation where the team ends up winning, the incident will not be reported, and it will likely be lost to the tides of history. So, yes, I do admit that I could find no substantive evidence of someone who disrespected the towel and then went on to win, but I'm staking a claim that it has absolutely happened, and likely at a similar rate to those who have disrespected the towel and then gone on to lose.
I would say that you're probably right. Like, obviously, it's real, but also a lot of towels probably get disrespected on the daily.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know? But I feel like it's like the big name disrespects. Like, obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning when I said the only thing I know about this curse is that a fan threw a towel off of the stadium. Like,
But that's not big enough name for you?
no, but obviously not. Like, anyone can do that. Like, a fan can toss their towel, because you're going to get away fans who get towels. Like, obviously they're going to disrespect them. That just comes with being a fan of the team. But it's like Ray Rice fucking waving it around, or all these guys stepping on them, like actual football players who actually affect the Tide, and mascots who are big names. Like, that's what makes the difference.
I totally respect your points
But
here.
I also agree with you that they're not going to be reporting like, oh, this Falcons player stepped on the towel, and then the Falcons went on to win 27-10.
Exactly. Like, if I read, like, every time someone stepped on the other team's logo and then they went on to win or lose, like, never-ending supply of articles, right?
Yeah.
It's simply not news at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's still a fact that this curse is real.
It's very interesting, and I find it really cool. And like I said, like I've done this. Like, how many episodes do we have now? I feel like pretty much every curse I have been able to find at least one example that just absolutely definitively disproves it. In this case, I tried, I looked, I searched, and I came up with fucking squat zilch.
Every time the Steelers lose from now on, you're just going to go onto Twitter and be like, terrible towel curse, and like scroll through to see if anyone's disrespected a towel. And the
No.
Steelers
Hear
will
me
still
out.
lost,
Next
and-
year, instead of having the Bills on the side screen during Red Zone, it's going to be the Steelers, and I'm just going to be intently watching for a terrible towel incident, and then pray for the Steelers to lose, so I can update you guys that I was right about my explanation the entire time. So, I will end off this episode in the only way I can, and that is with a quote from the mastermind of the terrible towel himself, Myron Cope. J. Cole, why don't you take it away?
Well, you wanted to end it off with your quote, so you can read it.
Wow, really avoiding that. Trying to prove that you're really just trying to avoid
I
those
know how to read.
illiterate allegations.
I know how to
Okay.
read, I swear.
Sure, bud, sure.
I swear. I read in this podcast.
Okay, I can confirm that has not happened. All right. So this quote goes, "I did not see the terrible towel as witchcraft to hex the enemy. It would be a positive force, driving the Steelers to superhuman performance. But if it experienced a yen for mischief and created fatal mistakes by opponents, I would tolerate that." And if you, after that quote, can tell me that this guy is a sellout and this guy's not a legend, I will not take it. Myron Cope is my GOAT. He is my favorite broadcaster of all time.
He's a sellout.
All right, fine. I guess this episode's real disagreement isn't going to be about the curse. It's going to be about Myron Cope.
Honestly, yeah, it does seem that way.
Myron Cope is my hero.
Your hero's the sellout. Alrighty, welcome to my section of the podcast where I bring you some crazy, wacky football. Jared's got the curse, so I'll give the history.
Hell yeah.
So, could you imagine that you were drafted in this year's draft?
No, I
okay?
could not imagine that. No.
But you didn't find out until 2080.
Would I still be eligible to play?
Well, basically that actually happened.
This must have been like in like the 1920s. Like, this must have been like when Teddy Roosevelt was playing football, sort of thing.
So in round 18 of 32, yes, 32 rounds, yes, in 1944, the Eagles selected a fullback from Syracuse named Norm MacDonald.
His name was Norm MacDonald?
Yes.
Like the incredibly famous Canadian comedian?
Sorry, I misread that. His name was Norm Michael.
Well, I got really excited for a
Yeah,
second.
I know,
No,
that
that's
would've
fair.
been
That's
crazy.
fair. Yeah, yeah.
But he didn't find out that he was drafted until 55 years after the 1944 draft.
Bro, I actually would have been so devastated. Are you kidding me? It's 1999, and he's like, oh, didn't get drafted. Or I guess I got drafted.
Yeah, so he enlisted in the army when he was a junior, and they didn't know Michael's whereabouts. And so the message just went undelivered.
Okay, so it's 1944. They can't find a young man who's of military service age, and they don't assume he's in the fucking military.
Apparently not. I
That-
don't know.
That oversight, I cannot explain.
So apparently Norm Michael was sitting in his trailer, sipping a cup of coffee, browsing the sports section, listing every single Syracuse University player that had ever been drafted to the NFL. And sure enough, he reads his own name on the list. He was like, and I quote, "That was the first I had heard of it. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me."
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, this is insane. You wouldn't believe it.
Can I say that the craziest part of this story is the fact that this guy sat down and read a list of every fucking Syracuse player from the 40s who went on? I guess he was playing them,
Forever.
but still,
Yeah.
like that's an insane thing to do.
Yeah, and he went the entire list to find himself.
I guess this was like pre-internet, so what was he gonna do?
Yeah, so he went on to say, "I still haven't heard from the Eagles. I guess I may have missed my window of opportunity."
I think he might be
so.
right.
I think,
Yeah,
unfortunately so. He may have missed it. It's crazy, though.
He is, like, that's an insane story. I hope he lived a very fulfilling life and didn't come across that and was like, I literally missed my shot at being an NFL player.
Yeah, he never retired, so maybe they should give him rings for all the Super Bowl.
Wait, that's such a good point. Wait,
Yeah.
this guy'd be like the most decorated guy in history, for sure. Fuck Tom Brady. We have a new goat in town.
Yeah, no one has had the longevity of
Norm Michaels.
Norm Michael. Yeah, crazy.
Good for him. Honestly, like, if I one day find out that I was drafted for a team, not only would I be terribly depressed that I didn't get to play for that team, mostly I'd be shocked because I'm like 5'6". But man, if the Eagles want to draft me and not tell me, at least I have a cool story.
I mean, maybe you'll be out in World War III when they reach out, and they won't know how to get to you, and then you'll find out in 55 years plus, whatever year it was.
I think if we're fighting World War III, I got a few bigger problems than being drafted by the Eagles. Thank you for listening to this week's episode.
If you enjoyed, please consider telling a friend or leaving a 5-star review. It really helps to grow the podcast.
You can also reach us by email at fbconspiracies@gmail.com.
A special thanks to Blaze for the music.
Join us next time for more football conspiracies.
Yeah, okay. Welcome to Football Conspiracies.
That's my line.
No, it's mine.
It's mine.
Oh, yeah.
What are you talking about?
Welcome.
Well, we have an ending segment already, or an ending piece already.
No, that's shit. Fuck.